else but Jesus. Nobody else will do. Of all the great people who have lived before, there's not another person who has loved us more. To make us and to take us underneath his wings. Now my heart can really sing. His pattern for living is perfect and easy to see. So I now want to follow and find out how much I can be. I wanna be like him. Great example is the one I see. Got to be like him. Else is good enough for me. I wanna be like him. Never will be perfect even though I try. Got to be like him. Working till the day I die. Of all the stars of living that are here today, not a single one can show a better way. The life of love and caring for your fellow man is part of his eternal plan. And the selfless devotion within your life can be real. Why not try it and live it, and then you'll know how I feel. Oh, I wanna be like him. Great example is
Again, it's good to be together. We're involved in a series on leadership. I don't know if you've caught on to that yet, but hopefully you're following the pattern. Today we're going to continue on with this series. And as I was studying for this, one of the things that really strikes me is sometimes we have to go back and revisit again, what is a leader? I know for me, one of the things that I was studying for this, and Edward gave me the topic and said we're going to be talking about leadership lessons from Paul, and come up with a catchy title, so that's as good as I came up with, so hope you like it. I think it works. But really, when we stop and think about what is a leader, I think so many times we've got some different images in our mind. Obviously, as we talk about it in the context of our church, we're looking to, let's just be real honest, we're going to be looking to appoint some new leadership, some new elders and deacons in our church. But in a broader sense, is it not on yet? Is that on? Is that on now? Is that better? Okay, we got it now. Making sure the microphone's working. But as we talk about leadership in a broader sense, I think we sometimes, again, we mess this up so much. Because the reality is, well, today being Father's Day, I'll pick on fathers. Fathers, God calls us, and we need fathers to be leaders in the home, don't we? Okay, what does that mean, though? That means you're influencing, you're leading, you're comforting, you're instructing your young people. Moms, we need moms to be leaders in the home too, don't we? You need to be teaching your kids. We need that discipline in the home. We need leaderships in our community, don't we? We need leaders in our workplace. We desperately need leaders in our country to step up and be the godly kind of people that we need to lead our country, don't we? And in one sense, as we talk about leadership, I want us to keep in mind, we are looking eventually at elders and deacons, but we're calling on each and every member because really in many ways, who is a leader in this room? Each and every one of us can and should be. Young people, you need to be leaders in your school because they're messed up people in your schools, aren't there? You don't have to nod too hard. Yeah, we know there are. And if they don't have strong leaderships that influence and say, I'm going to show you what Jesus looks like by my example, and I'm going to be living that godly life, then you're going to be just one of the swarm that's following the masses, and your schools are going to be messed up even more than they already are. And our world won't. We need desperately leaders to step up. As I sat down and I tried to come up with, I came up with a quick definition, and this is Daryl's definition of leaders. And it has 3 different parts. And I encourage you, in life group, take a few minutes, talk about, synthesize, process this, and really try to understand what a leader is. A leader is someone who inspires passion. He motivates others to follow. I really think that really is what a leader should be all about. He's trying to get people to be passionate about what they're doing, and that should be a big part of it. A leader is someone who has a vision, and they're trying to impart that vision. A leader is someone who really is a support for others. He's an encourager. To me, those are the 3 aspects of my definition of leader. Now, how do we learn leadership? Well, we can learn it a lot of different ways. We can learn it through reading through books about it. But one of the ways I think that's so powerful is we learn it by reading and seeing examples of that. Who did we look at over the past couple of weeks while I was gone? Who did you look at? Well, you looked at how I'm looking at my notes to remind myself even. I was gone, by the way. Nehemiah. You talked about Nehemiah last week. You talked about how he was a leader. You talked about Moses the week before and how he was a leader. Well, this week we're going to look at the example of Paul, the Apostle Paul. Now, what strikes me as we look at his example, the text that we're going to be using, he's a prisoner. He is confined in chains, and yet what is he doing as a leader? He's still a leader. And how do we learn from him as a leader? Well, it really is interesting. Let's talk about the Apostle Paul. First off, what's his background? Okay, he was born in the city of Tarsus. Tarsus, if you remember, is this city. It's kind of like Athens and Alexandria. It is this brain, these places where brain people were born, where smart people that were really influential in the way that people saw the world and perceived the world. Paul comes born in that city of Tarsus. It really is. It's this powerful city. Sometime in his youthfulness, he gets moved to Jerusalem, where he is trained under this rabbi named Gamaliel, who is this up-and-coming rabbi who is really knowledgeable about Judaism. He is being trained to be a kind of a priest, kind of to be this incredible teacher. He's being trained to be this upcoming thinker, one of the big speakers, one of the big influencers in the Jewish world. That's where he's being trained to be, and he's headed on that course. All of a sudden, he sees Judaism coming up, and it becomes a threat to what's happening. And so what does he do? Well, that's not the right way we should do things, so I'm going to stand up and be a leader for that, and what am I going to do? I'm going to squelch this thing, because it's hurting us. It's not going in the right way. He doesn't stop to look into Christianity like he should have. But as he approaches it, he's willing to arrest people, lock them up. He persecutes Christians until he literally has a come to Jesus moment where God smacks him upside the head on the road to Damascus, and what happens? Oh, I'm doing this all wrong. I'm not being helpful to God. I'm not leading people to God. I'm actually hurting God. And so all of a sudden, Saul takes his life and he changes it upside down. Later on becomes the Apostle Paul. And he becomes a leader for Jesus. He writes a big portion of the New Testament. He touches so many lives as he goes around leading people. He really is this powerful influencer. And by the time we get to this chapter, in Acts chapter 27, where do we find him? Well, he's been arrested because he's trying to be such a powerful influencer and leader towards Christianity. That what happens? They lock him up. They're wanting to persecute him. And so he finally says, well, I appeal to Rome, so send me to Rome to be judged. So by law, they have to transport him from Jerusalem to Rome so he can see Caesar. He appeals to the highest court. It's on this ship we find him. He gets on this ship, and what does he do? He's a prisoner, but he's still leading. He's still influencing people. He builds a relationship with the guard that's with him, talking with him. He shares with him we don't know all he says, but somehow the guy ends up showing him compassion, and he lets him go off ship when they land ashore so his friends can take care of him. Later on in the chapter, when he comes to the guy and says, if we continue on, we're going to be in danger. And the guard doesn't listen to him, so what happens? Well, they end up getting in bad shape. Next thing you know, as we come to the text that was read to us a few minutes ago, Paul gathers everyone under ship, and it's not the guard that's leading the discussion here on what to do. It's Paul. It's Paul that's standing up and saying, I can tell you, God showed me what's going to happen. It's not going to end well for this ship. But he leads, he encourages, he guides. And they trust him through it all. And he shows them, yeah, you're going to lose some ship and some cargo here, but what's going to happen? We're going to all be okay. And they eat, they pray together, and And again, the Apostle Paul leads. Four quick points I want you to look at here as we look at this story here. Number one, a leader is trustworthy. Leaders need to be trustworthy. Paul was trustworthy. He really did. He builds trust in people. He shows trust in people. And one of the ways he does that is he takes time and builds relationships. As he's going on these ships, timelines in the Bible always crack me up, because we were talking about this in our Bible class on Moses, how sometimes you read one word and all of a sudden 10 years later. And we forget that sometimes. So Paul gets on the ship, and what happens? Well, months later, they arrive in a different port. What is he doing while he's on that ship? He's talking. He's building relationships. He is investing time to do that. I used to think in youth ministry, one of the best times that you could spend with the young people is trapped in a vehicle. Honestly, long road trips are some of the best time, because they're captive audience, aren't they, Jimmy? You're fixing to get some of that. Sorry, Jimmy. You're fixing to get some captive audience with Jimmy. And I hope you guys, as you go on your camp trips, will cherish that time and not just put in your earbuds and tune out the world, but share that time, because that's a time to build relationships. It's time to share with each other and grow together, because that can be such a powerful time together. Because when we're riding on those boat trips or on those youth trips, we build trust with each other. We build relationship with each other. And that becomes such a powerful thing. Not only does it take time, but when we have character and integrity involved in our lives, what happens? That really becomes what maintains that. It's through Paul's integrity and his character that what happens with his relationship with these people on the ship? Well, he becomes more and more a strong leader. If I want to be a strong leader, I need to be someone that's trustworthy. Paul shows us that in this text. Honestly, as I've been praying about this lesson, I'm thinking, I hope the elders are cool with everything we're saying here, because this is like an attack. This is a confrontation on their own leadership as we talk about this. And so, but I want to be real clear. I am so convinced on the solidness of our eldership here. I've never worked with such fine men. I think our eldership here, when we look at these 4 principles, all 4 of them, they're excelling them. All of our eldership are. And so I hope as we talk about leadership, as if we're talking about Bible class teachers, all the Bible class teachers, how am I doing? As we talk about leadership, I wonder I hope we're asking ourselves those kind of questions. I'm asking myself as a leader, how am I doing as a leader as we go through this series on leadership? And I hope our elders realize we see you as trustworthy. Because so many of our elders, they care about us desperately. They do. They want to know when you're hurting. And if you aren't, and that you can approach them, you can come to them and share what's going on. Their integrity, their character is so solid. And it's just so amazing for me to look at our leadership that we have around here. I've never worked with a team that was such a strong leadership as this body here. And I think that's why God is doing some amazing things through us here. But really, if you want a strong leader, you're going to look for someone who's trustworthy. If I want to become a strong leader, I need to build my ability to be more trustworthy. Number 2, a leader is one who strengthens others. Leadership is not really just about ourselves, is it? Paul, as apostle, what does he do? He encourages others. He gets in that boat, and all of a sudden he realizes there's a shipwreck coming. A horrible situation is going to take place, and so what does he do? He moans and groans about it, like all of us would. No, he doesn't. He said, I told you so. No, and he kind of gives a little bit of that, but not in so much. What Paul does is he says, this is going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Yeah, we're going to lose some stuff, but all of us are going to come out alive. He encourages them. He wasn't using, I could build myself up. No. He uses this as a chance where he can strengthen other people, and he takes situations and he looks for ways to build people up. A leader is passionate about helping others to change their lives. It's not just about what I can get out of it. You show me a selfish leader, and I'll show you a bad leader. When a leader, and maybe that's, and don't want to get political, but I look at politics and I see so many political guys, all they care about is themselves. They aren't about serving others and building up other people. They're about maintaining power and control. And if that's what a leadership is, you've got a bad leader there. Can you be a leader and be a bad leader? Yeah, unfortunately, we see that all the time, don't we? Again, I think we're so blessed in this congregation with leaders that aren't, though. That as I look at our shepherds, I see shepherds that care about other people. That they're strengthening other people. That when they see something happen and when they become aware of it, they're there to pray with you. They're there to care for you. They're there to take steps to try to help. Because that's what good leadership does. That's what healthy ship leaders do. Paul himself, what was he? He was a disciple maker. And that's so much of what what shepherding does. That's so much what leaders do, is they strengthen other people. Now, if I'm a disciple, what does it mean to be a disciple maker? It means I look beyond myself and I'm trying to pass on what I do. Okay, young people, there's where you get to be leaders. You get to be disciple makers in your school. That means that not only do we believe in Jesus, but we share that faith with other people. That's what disciple maker is, isn't it? In many ways, I don't believe you can be a Christian without being a leader. Because if I am following Jesus, I'm going to be like Jesus, and Jesus was a leader. And what was he doing? He was sharing his faith with other people. And so if really we are going to be disciple makers, if we really are going to be Christians, we're going to be leaders in one way or another. Now, do we serve in different roles in different ways? Oh, yeah, that we do. We have different gifts, different talents, different leadership styles. Oh, huge, yes. But part of what Paul did is we see him making disciples. He took people's lives. You see what he did in the lives of Timothy. You see what he did in the lives of so many different Apollos and different men throughout the Bible. He built them up. He strengthened them. Because that's what a leader does. Fathers, you should be building up your family. That verse about exasperating your children has nothing to do with teasing them, although I think it does in some sense. It has to do with building up your family. Don't exasperate them, but lead them closer to God instead, is kind of the opposite of what he's trying to get us to see. And so as we talk about this, as I become a better father, as you become a better leader in whatever way it is, you should be strengthening up those around you. You should be leading them closer to Jesus and showing them Jesus in your life. Number 3 here. A leader has empathy for other people. You see, a leader, he understands how people feel. Paul, as he's sitting on that ship, I hear his tone and I see how much he cares about. He realizes a shipwreck's not going to be a fun thing. Coming from someone that doesn't know how to swim very well, a shipwreck is one of the scariest things for me. Not my idea. In fact, I'll be honest, on our trip that we went up to Alaska last week, I was nervous about being on a ship because it's not like you're on a water when you're on a cruise ship, by the way. It's so weird. It's another world. But a shipwreck to me, I could think of a lot of ways to go, but that just, my idea of swimming is sink to the bottom and run for the shore. I mean, it really is. That's how well I don't swim. I'm too heavy boned. I can run, but boy, I can't swim. These guys that do these Ironman and triathlete stuff, they're beyond me because they can swim very simply. I can figure out the bike thing. But as you look at this, Paul's on this ship. They're fixing to have this shipwreck. And so what does he do? He sympathizes with them. He has empathy. He doesn't just say, well, you guys got to buck up and deal. And in one sense, he could have said that. But what does he do? He cares about how they feel, and he sympathizes with them, and yet he does. He calls them to, okay, you're going to have to be called to do something tough here, and that's what leaders do. Does leadership mean that we always give in to whatever people say? No, but we are sympathetic to what people say, don't we? And that's one of the challenges as a leader is you want to be sympathetic, but yet we still do what we know is right. But there's a difference between that and empathy, isn't there? Paul shows empathy to the people around him. Leaders care about people and not just objectives and goals. It's such a big part of this. Sometimes it's easy for me to get wrapped up in the tasks that I'm doing, and I forget the task isn't what's important. The people are important. You see, we get so busy doing what we're doing, and we forget, oh, maybe I do need to stop and listen to this person that's coming to talk to me, coming to be with me. Oh, yeah, I do have my to-do list, but don't be ruled by your to-do list. Be ruled by your empathy and your love for people. There's some days when I get down and I look down and I have my list of things that I had planned to do and go, well, I got one done. But more importantly than getting one done, I got to visit with 5 people that really needed to be listened to. And so whenever someone comes by my office and say, you got time to visit? Yes. Because you're important. People are important. Preparing sermons is a job that I do, yes. Studying for Bible class, yeah. And honestly, come Sunday, I pay for it if I visit too much during the week. But I'd rather have a lousy Bible class than be known as someone that doesn't care about people. Because I think a strong leader, and I think Paul supports this, he is one who has empathy with people. He cares about people, and he's listening to people, and he's diligently trying to help people. And as Christians, that's what strong leadership does. That they are diligent about trying to be there for people and with people. MacArthur, he writes, leaders must give their people room to fail. It's easy to rebuke someone when they make a mistake, but as you lead people, respond with some sincere empathy. People will learn from the mistakes. Paul has a lot of folks he was leading that failed him, but he stayed the course and encouraged those to overcome those failures and succeed. Empathy doesn't mean that we dominate people or we let them run over us or that we dominate them. Empathy has to do with caring for people and letting them grow and helping people grow. And that's what healthy leadership is. That's what Paul does through this as we see him in here. Number 4. A leader knows his or her own limitations. Paul knew his weaknesses, didn't he? In 2 Corinthians it says, for when I am weak, I am strong. How does Paul do that? I think part of it is that he recognizes that he is weak, first off, and secondly, he surrounds himself with a strong team. Part of leadership isn't, and one of the cool things about our eldership, and I'm not trying to pick on you guys at all. Hope you understand that. You're diverse. You're not all the same, and that's cool. And there's sometimes when we're thinking about, I know that we've talked about, okay, we need an elder to do something. Well, we ought to get him because the other one is not the one for that job. And that's okay. But recognize your weaknesses and strengths and surround yourself with people that can overcome those strengths, because some people, let's just be honest, they're real blunt. And sometimes I need blunt in my life, but sometimes I need someone that's going to be careful with their words, don't I? And having leadership around me that can do that. Now, as I develop my own leadership, I need to know my limitations, because I do have some limitations, don't I? Don't agree with that too quickly, please. Yes, I do. But hopefully, I have people around me that can help me overcome those. Likewise, you in your families and your leadership in the home. There was times when things would happen with our kids when I'm going, Nina, this is for you. This isn't for me. You need to handle this one. And we both agree, yeah, definitely. This is definitely. And there was other times when she's going, Daryl, you need to take care of this. Okay, you're right. Because she has some abilities that I don't have. And when we use those together, when we bond those together, what happens? We actually overcome our weaknesses. Sometimes even a leader, by surrounding himself with other people that can hold him accountable and to see those things going on, that really becomes such a strong thing, doesn't it? When I have people in my life that can help me and say, hey, Daryl, you may want to think about this that's going on in your own life. That helps me overcome my weaknesses. It helps me grow in ways that I wouldn't grow otherwise. So much of what I see in Paul, he surrounded himself by incredible people, whether it was Apollos or Paul surrounded himself with Apollos or Timothy or Titus or some of these other people, that he had other people in his life that would help him. And did he influence them? Yes, but they also influenced him. And I think that's so important for us. Who helps you with your weaknesses? Make sure you have somebody in your life that can help you with that. Making sure you have someone you can go to as a sounding board. Hey, I'm trying to figure this out. Am I seeing this right or am I messed up? And if you have someone around you that can be honest and go, oh, Daryl, yeah, you are messed up, that helps. It really does. Now, if someone doesn't have a relationship with me and walks up to me and go, Daryl, you're messed up, I take that and I listen to it, but it doesn't have nearly the depth as that person that I trust and I care about, right? And so a smart leader, a good, healthy leader, does have relationships around him that can help him with that, but also he can take the criticism and he can take the things that are going on as well. So how are you doing as a leader? We have 4 points here that we've looked at. A leader's trustworthy. A leader strengthens others. A leader has empathy for others. A leader has his own limitations. Well, the first question I want to ask you is, are you being a good leader, first off? Are you? Because if you're a follower of Christ, again, I go back to it. You should be leading someone. And who are you leading? You should be leading someone, and you need to be working. Am I intentionally, or am I just living and not even thinking about it? Christians should be leaders. And if our world's falling apart, maybe it's because Christians aren't doing their job very well. And we need to step up and take ownership of that and do that. The second question, though, has to do with, go back over these 4 little points that we've talked about here. Are you growing in your ability to be trustworthy? Are you strengthening others? Or are you worried about pushing yourself up? Are you growing in empathy? Do you understand your limitations, and are you surrounding yourself with people that can help you with those? Some questions on your handout there to help you to spend some time in life group. Encourage you, for those of you that are having life group today or during the week, really think about, what is a leader? And what lessons can you learn from Paul? Let's pray before we sing our closing song. Lord God, thank you. Thank you for this day, for this chance to be together, to grow and to learn. Ask your blessings on us as we try to become better leaders, each one of us. That as we try to be your disciples, that we would be like you and be good leaders. That we would make an influence and make an impact in the world around us. Help us. Help us, Lord. Thank you. Thank you for the strong leaders that you bless this congregation with. And ask you to continue to lift them up and strengthen them. That they could continue to help us to continue to grow and thrive as a congregation. Be with our world. That we as your people, as your creation, can be leaders in that world to draw people to you. We thank you, and we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Would you please stand as we sing our closing song?